So today, we're going to talk about something called the ominous octet, which sounds a little dramatic, I know, but it refers to 8 common health conditions that older women often face, conditions that are too easily just brushed aside as a normal part of getting older.
Let's start with this. Well, it's a real paradox when you think about it. It's a well-known fact that women tend to live longer than men, but what's less talked about is that those extra years are often lived with more health problems and greater disability. So it's not the full picture, is it?
And this quote from Dr. Vinod Kumar, it just hits the nail on the head. So many serious symptoms get dismissed with a simple, oh, that's just part of aging. Well, our goal here is to challenge that idea and really bring these health issues out into the open.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the reality of what a longer life can look like for women. Then we'll dive into 3 big areas: physical pains, issues around the mind and mood, and challenges to stability. And we'll wrap up by talking about what we can actually do about it.
So let's jump right into our first section, a longer, harder life. Because, it's really not just about how many years you live, but the quality of those years. And the issues we're about to cover can have a huge, huge impact on day-to-day life. All right, let's get into our first group of conditions, which we're calling the body's unspoken pains. These are the kinds of physical problems that can just quietly chip away at a person's quality of life, day in and day out.
Chronic pain is incredibly common in older women. As we get older, our muscles naturally become less dense, less flexible, and that can lead to these persistent, nagging aches, in the neck, the lower back, the pelvic area. For so many, it's just a constant, draining fight.
But here's what's so important to understand, that pain isn't always just pain. A lot of the time, it's a symptom of something else going on under the surface. That's why it's absolutely crucial to look deeper and check for things like thyroid issues, anemia, or even side effects from common medications like statins.
And then, of course, there's arthritis. It brings that all-too-familiar pain, stiffness, and swelling in the joints. And what's key here is that the 2 main types, osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis, are both much, much more common in older women. It can really impact the ability to do even simple, everyday things. Okay, this next one is something that so many women deal with, but almost no one talks about because of the stigma around it: urinary incontinence. The thing is, so many women suffer in silence, but it's a treatable medical condition. It is not something you just have to live with.
All right, let's shift our focus a little bit. We've talked about the body, now let's talk about the mind. This section covers challenges with thinking, mood, and sleep, all areas where older women can face some really unique struggles.
Wow, just take a second to look at this number. 2 to 1. For every older man living with dementia, there are 2 older women. That's not a small gap, it's a massive difference, and it really shows a specific vulnerability we have to pay attention to. So, what should we be on the lookout for? Well, here are some of the key early signs. Little things maybe, like misplacing things all the time, repeating the same stories, or having a hard time making decisions. If you notice these things, it's a clear signal that it's time to talk to a doctor.
Depression is another major issue. It actually affects more women than men at every stage of life. But for older women, certain things can come together to make the risk even higher. Things like losing a spouse, loneliness, and dealing with other health problems. And then there is sleep, or, not being able to sleep. Insomnia is so common. It affects up to 75% of older adults. And we're not just talking about feeling a bit tired, we're talking about a real persistent problem, getting the rest you need, and it's especially an issue for older women.
And this is exactly why we can't just ignore it. Long-term insomnia isn't a small problem, it's dangerous. It messes with your concentration, it lowers your quality of life, and it actually increases your risk of falls and even something as serious as a stroke or a heart attack. Okay, on to our final group of health challenges. This is all about physical stability, the things that affect our balance, our strength, and our ability to just move around in the world safely. This statistic is genuinely alarming. Falls are not a minor thing for older people. They are the single leading cause of injury, hospitalization, and even death. And yet again, older women are more likely to be affected.
So, why do falls happen so often? Well, it's rarely just one thing. It's usually a combination of factors all at once. Vision or hearing getting worse, losing muscle mass, maybe side effects from taking several different medicines, and especially having osteoporosis, which makes bones much more fragile.
And all of this leads us to this medical term, frailty. Now, frailty isn't just a general word for being old.
It's a specific condition, and it's defined by these 5 things you see here: losing weight without trying, having low muscle strength, feeling exhausted, walking slowly, and being less physically active.
But here's another one of those fascinating paradoxes. Even though frailty is more common in women, it doesn't seem to have the same impact on them as it does on men. For whatever reason, women seem to be more resilient, and they often live longer even when they are frail. It's really a complex issue.
So after going through all these tough challenges, you might be thinking, okay, so what do we do? Well, the good news is the most powerful tool we have is simply awareness. Just understanding that these things are happening is the very first step to taking back control.
And the path forward from there is actually pretty clear. Step 1. Acknowledge the symptoms. They are not just a normal part of aging. Step 2. Break the silence. Talk about what's going on. Step 3. Get medical advice from a professional. And finally, Step 4. Explore the different ways to manage the condition. You don't have to just suffer through it.
And that really brings us to our final question. And this one is for all of us. It's not just about the person going through these things. It's about their family, their friends, their community. How can we all get better at listening to the women in our lives and helping them advocate for their health? Because starting that conversation, that's how we can make a real, lasting difference. Thank you so much for joining.